lovely little lumps. Check it out. I drive these brothers crazy.
I was in a group called Wild Orchid, and it just wasn't working, and so they tried to make us do different things, and it just started feeling.
What's so proudly?
Fergie was never just the girl with the hooks. She was the shock factor, the pop grenade that flipped the Black Eyed Peas from conscious cool to global chaos. But behind the glam and Grammys was a story way messier than any tabloid ever got right. Before the world knew her name, she was a child star with pressure stitched into her skin. Before the Super Bowl stage, she was holed up in a blackout apartment, spiraling on meth, hallucinating bunnies, and SWAT teams. And long after the headlines stopped, she was quietly rebuilding, without applause, without fanfare, just grit.
I was in a group called Wild Orchid, and it just wasn't working, and so they tried to make us do different things, and it just started feeling.
This isn't the polished version. This is the one where the breakdowns weren't PR spin, where addiction wasn't a plot twist, and where the girl with the diamond mic had to save herself before anyone else even noticed she was drowning. This is the story of Stacy, not the persona, the person, and it hits differently.
I won't change by the glamorous.
Picture this: Fergie front and center, hair looking like it had its own glam squad, diamond mic in hand, like it was a custom piece. She hit every note like her life depended on it, worked the stage like she built it, and had the whole crowd in their feelings. Big Girls Don't Cry was ringing out, lighters were up, and for a second it felt like nothing else mattered. She wasn't just singing, she was running the whole show, pure pop star energy. But the second she stepped off that stage, different story. Her marriage was falling apart. Staying sober was a daily fight, and her career felt like a tug of war. Solo gigs pulling her one way, the P's pulling her another, and the pressure to be perfect from every angle. It was all moving fast. Stadiums, interviews, rehearsals. But inside, she was crawling. It looked glossy, but behind all that glitter, things were cracking. To get how she ended up there, you gotta rewind to where it all started. She grew up in a super strict household in a quiet California suburb. On the outside, everything was neat. But even as a kid, Stacy had something extra. She was doing voiceovers, booking commercials, and by the time most kids were learning how to drive, she was already a TV regular on Kids Incorporated. She could sing, act, dance. Basically the full package before she even hit her teens. From afar, it looked like a dream run. But all that early success came with pressure. Keep smiling, don't mess up, stay perfect. After school, she reconnected with two friends from her Kids Inc. days, Stephanie and Renee, and they formed a pop girl group. Labels saw the potential and threw money at it. Music videos, tour dates, glossy magazine spreads. They were everywhere. But behind closed doors, the machine was running them into the ground. They were being molded into whatever would sell. Cool, but not too out there. Pretty, but still PG. It got exhausting fast. Their second album didn't hit like the label wanted. Numbers dropped, excitement dipped, and suddenly everything felt shaky. They still pushed forward, finished another project, even lined up a huge tour. But right when things were about to take off again, the label pulled the rug. Album scrapped. Tour gone. No explanation. Just silence and stress. And that was the moment the cracks really started to show.
Just about a decade ago, you were broke, right? You were addicted to.
When the label shelved that third album, something in her just snapped. All those years of hustle, training, rehearsing, glamming it up, being on point, it all disappeared overnight. No warning, no explanation, just gone. And when everything she built crumbled like that, the fall hit hard. That's when the spiral kicked in. What started as a way to numb the blow turned into something way darker. Crystal meth wasn't a casual detour. It became the main road. Stacy didn't sugarcoat what went down. This wasn't some sad girl era with a few off days. This was full-blown chaos. Just no one knew it. On the outside, she was still doing shoots, smiling for cameras, throwing on the heels. But inside, she was seeing stuff that wasn't there. Her brain turned into a horror movie. Bunnies, bees, SWAT teams, fake surveillance. She thought everybody was watching her. Reality was gone, but the world still expected her to play the part. And because no one asked questions, she just made up answers. When the weight dropped off her fast, people started guessing. Instead of telling them the truth, she blamed it on an eating issue. It was easier than explaining the crash cycles and paranoia. Plus, no one really wanted the truth anyway. The music industry liked their stars glossy and manageable, not glitching out in secret. She was supposed to be edgy, but only in ways they could package. So she disappeared into herself. She blocked out the light in her apartment, barely left, went full ghost mode, but somehow she still kept showing up. Photo shoots, events, press junkets, like nothing was wrong. Meanwhile, her mind was crumbling and nobody noticed, or maybe they did, but looked the other way. Either way, she was breaking, and she was doing it alone. Her rock bottom hit in the most unexpected place, a random church off Wilshire. She was wired, full-on losing it, convinced cameras were tracking her moves, and that some tactical squad was seconds away from kicking down the door. She sprinted through the pews like she was being hunted, heart racing, totally convinced this was it. She told herself, if there's a SWAT team waiting outside, cool, I'm not crazy. But if there's nothing, then it's just her brain, and that thought hit me differently.
You were addicted to crystal meth.
Yes.
Isn't that horrible? I hear that's horrible. It like
it does a lot of things. It
destroys your neurotransmitter.
So she walked out. No flashing lights, no agents, just dead silence. That was the moment it all snapped into focus. She needed to quit. She had to. But quitting didn't mean she just bounced back. That wasn't some dramatic "and she was fine" moment. It took her a full year just to feel like her brain wasn't short-circuiting anymore. The hallucinations didn't clock out instantly. The paranoia dragged on, and the industry? Still crickets. Nobody pulled her aside. No team showed up like, hey, are you actually okay? Because when you're famous, addiction gets treated like a headline, not a health crisis. No one saw a woman barely hanging on. They just saw a messy storyline. She later told Oprah it took serious inner work to crawl out of that mess. Not just quitting the drug, but digging into why she even went there in the first place. Meth wasn't some weekend habit. It was like a toxic situationship that wrecked her from the inside, and leaving it felt like a breakup she barely survived. At one point, she was down to 90 pounds. She wasn't even herself anymore.
I was in a group called Wild Orchid, and it just wasn't working, and so they tried to make us do different things, and it just started feeling.
She called meth the worst boyfriend she ever had. And honestly, that nailed it. It didn't just mess with her body, it took over her whole identity. So when she finally walked away, she had to rebuild from the ground up. No makeup, no character, just Stacy, staring herself down and figuring out who that even was without the stage lights. And that part, that survival, that's where her real story kicked off. Not in the music charts or red carpet moments, but in that silent church parking lot. When she realized she almost didn't make it, she didn't run from that past. She owned it. That chaos taught her what strength really felt like. Not polished, not perfect, just real. And she never forgot it.
My lovely little lumps, check it out. I drive these brothers crazy.
When Stacy first popped up on that Black Eyed Peas track, most folks thought she was just dropping in real quick and bouncing. But then she opened her mouth, and that voice instantly locked in. She wasn't just singing, she was slicing through the beat like neon in the dark. It filled a space nobody realized was empty till she showed up. Suddenly, she wasn't a feature, she was the missing piece. That switch flipped everything. The group went from chill conscious rap to stadium-level pop status overnight. That huge anthem hit, and boom. Global takeover mode. The songs were everywhere. And Stacy, she was all over it. Hooks, visuals, headlines, tour stages. Her energy was the show. By the time the next album dropped, the hits were stacking like dominoes. Playful, chaotic, catchy as hell. She wasn't blending in, she was leading. But not everyone loved the switch up. Some OG fans weren't feeling the shift. The biggest question flying around: why was a white woman fronting a group that came from hip-hop roots? Suddenly, she wasn't just the spark, she was the scapegoat. Critics said the group sold out. She got labeled everything from genius to industry plant, and even within the crew, things got weird. Rumors started flying about behind the scenes drama. Stacey wanting creative input, will.i.am chasing his futuristic ideas, and the old school fans missing the raw edge. Still, she didn't flinch. She doubled down. Flashy looks, loud tracks, interviews where she clapped back with a grin. When people called her lyrics dumb, she rolled her eyes. It wasn't trying to be deep, it was supposed to be fun. And honestly, it worked. Even the haters ended up singing along. People on Reddit still argue that Stacey made that era, and they're not wrong. She wasn't just the voice, she was the face, the sparkle. From music videos to the Super Bowl stage, she was all glammed up, lit up, and impossible to miss. But the bigger the spotlight got, the heavier it all felt. Every time someone dragged the group for going too pop or getting too weird, guess who caught the stray first? Still, she didn't back down. She reframed it. This wasn't about selling out. It was about scaling up. She didn't crash a scene. She built a new one. Then came that national anthem performance. Big stage, big moment. She slowed the whole thing down, added a little jazz club sauce, and tried something different. Bold, sure.
What's so proudly?
But the crowd, not feeling it. Cameras caught players reacting mid-performance.
And a flag was still there.
The internet didn't just react, they exploded. Memes everywhere. Comedians dragged her. Twitter turned it into a roast session. The next day, she apologized and kept it moving. But that moment kinda shifted the energy. It felt like her pop reign quietly lost its footing. And then, just like that, it was over. No farewell post, no big statement, just will.i.am casually mentioning in an interview that she wasn't in the group anymore. Said she was being a mom. And that was it. Years of being the face of their biggest era, and the goodbye got buried under a throwaway line. People were confused. Why no love? Why no real send-off? She carried them through their biggest run, but now she was out, and nobody said a word. Rumors circled. Some folks said she wanted more creative say. Others said she was just done playing the background in her own story. Either way, by the time a new girl stepped in, it was obvious. Stacey had exited stage left. No public beef, no drama, just gone. Would that have happened if she was a guy? Probably not. But that's the thing. This industry eats what it needs, then keeps it pushing. Meanwhile, she switched lanes, focused on her kid, started her own label. Keep things low-key. Maybe she walked, maybe she was pushed, doesn't matter. She didn't beg for a headline. She was the headline. She was the spark. The risk taker, the one who gave the group its second life. And when it was time, she let it go. No curtain call needed.